Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this evening's episode of Under the Hood. Tonight we're back on the road. We're going down to Keith's garage down in Dublin, and also while we're down there, we took a trip across the Loire as well. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Under the Hood, driven by detail. In this episode, we are out on the road and we're going around interviewing garages, getting the story behind the men that we know, the name over the door. In this episode, we're interviewing our very own Keith Lenihan from Keith Lenihan Motors. He's also known in this episode as Keith Nolan.
Oh yeah, that was a good one, yeah.
Yeah, I made a mess of it, didn't I?
Yeah, it's not like it. How hard is it to say under the hood, driven by detail?
It took us 20 minutes to get going, but look, when we got going, it was a great story. And we've not only had a wee chat with Keith in his own garage, we were down the road and had a look at the sales area as well, which
room, yeah.
Yeah, so you don't seem that excited about it. It was lovely.
Look, it was a good interview. I hope people enjoy it. It's not that exciting though. But we'll see what people think.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Sean McKeown. You're very welcome to this episode of Under the Hood, on the road. And today the tables have turned. I would have Keith Lenihan down beside me doing the interviews, but today Chris Nolan has kindly offered to step in Keith's place because we're actually interviewing Keith in his workshop in Finglas in Dublin. Keith, thanks very much for
No problem at all.
And so as part of the on the road section of Under the Hood, we just want a quick chat with you and hear your story. I want to hear your background, right back to before you even lifted the smile, and what got you in it, where did you start serving your time, what made you want to initially serve your time?
Yeah.
Right back.
So, yeah, Jesus, where to start? So, I suppose the interest in cars would have come about from remote control car racing, actually, when I was a child. And then, I was doing that for a number of years, and then what did I do then? So I was in school, so in 5th year then, my mother and father came to me. They seen a job in one of the newspapers for an aircraft engineer with FLS Aerospace. And I went for the job and didn't get it that year. So your man in the interview asked me up there, he said, what would you do if you don't get the job? I said, I'll come back and get it next year when I do my leaving cert. So I went and done the leaving cert, went back and got the job. I hated it. Like, I would think I'd done 2 or 3 days in it.
What do you do? What's it
mechanic.
entail?
I didn't get to that part. It was all just induction and
Too much paper.
no, I just wasn't into it. And I was working in the bar trade at the time, and the whole flip of the hours and stuff. And my initial plan after school was to take a year off. But anyway, I went and started this job, and my mum and dad were mad proud. And there was a bit where, like, I had a car and a car loan and all that sort of stuff, and they insisted on you're not allowed to work part-time, right? Yeah. So in the thing, there was a couple of lads asking, and the HR girl said, look, if anyone's working part-time, it's not going to be for us, right? And that was it, grand. How do I get out of here? And off we went. So I drove around for about 3 weeks to let my parents think that I was actually going to work. So I'd get up in the morning, put on the clothes. Well, they know about it now. So you'd put on the clothes and you'd drive around all day and come back at 5:30. But the ultimate thing, I wanted to be a car mechanic. So I done most of the year out. I think it was April 2002. April 2002 it was, so whatever, you finished school. So it was the bones of a year. And then I went for a couple of interviews, one in Joe Duffy's and one in Dennis Mahoney's in Kilbarrack. I was offered the 2 jobs, but Duffy's wanted to put me in the parts department for 3 to 6 months, whereas Mahoney's were putting me direct onto the workshop floor. So I went with Mahoney's. It was mad because I subsequently left Mahoney's and went to Duffy's in sales, which I'll talk about in a minute. But so Dennis Mahoney's, we started there in 2002, served me time, qualified. I got a good apprenticeship out of it. Like, it's a good place to work. John Byrne was the service manager down there. I still talk to him today. John's like Marmite, I suppose, so in a way, but I actually get on really well with him. There's other lads that probably wouldn't say the same, but sure, I suppose everyone has a bit of that, He was actually only out with me this morning. He was collecting something out of the house, but I'd still be in touch with John. He drops cars into us here.
Right.
And then throughout the apprenticeship, I was always hungry, like you wanted bigger jobs, better jobs. And John would always kind of bangs that drum, you were mad for work. But as I got through the apprenticeship, I was looking at the sales department, and you see them flying around and they're nice cars, and they seem to have a good quality of life, and they're not out in the workshop. So I kind of said I wouldn't mind looking at that option. So when I qualified, a job came up in Joe Duffy's for junior sales, and I went for that and got it. So I left Mahoney's, and that was 2007, January 2007, and I started in Duffy's, basically parking cars as a junior salesman, and then kind of worked up. Then started a Mini, transitioned into BMW. I suppose I left Duffy's for a year during the recession. Things went quiet, and I went up to a garage called Hutton and Mead in Ballycullen. And that was actually a funny year because I went in as Hyundai sales. If I'm not wrong in saying, it was the first Hyundai salesman for Hutton and Mead at the time. When they took on the brand, it was in a porter cabin out in the yard. But again, that was 2009. There was nothing happening. It was tumbleweed. So I think it was the May of that year, the job come up for a service manager in Hutton and Mead. So I went for that job, and again, got it. But I think I would have been only 24, 25 at the time. And the job, obviously, it was harder times. So there was a lot of pressure on the workshop. You're not selling cars, so the workshop obviously has to be driving the revenue. And again, the job I was inexperienced, I was enthusiastic, loads of energy, but I just didn't have the experience. So I only done that for about 7 or 8 months. And then I went back to the Joe Duffy Group then to Audi North Dublin. And when did I finish with them? That was 2010. So Audi was only open. Anyone that knows me will know I'm BMW mad. So when they mentioned going back to Audi, I was kind of like, take it or leave it. But I have to say, after working with the brand for 3 or 4 years or whatever it was, I got to really like it to the extent that I actually, when leaving Audi, I ended up buying a new one. So that'll tell you that Model A4 and stuff in the A6 at the time were just, I think they were better than they probably are now.
Yeah, probably done the same. We bought an A4 and every discount. Oh, you love BMWs.
Yeah, just 2013 kind of.
Try it.
Yeah.
Keep it that tight. So then you went on and...
Yeah, so I was in Audi, and basically what I was working in the evenings, fixing cars still. So I didn't just drop the spanners in 2007. I was always kind of working in the evenings, keeping the hand at it. But obviously now in saying that, 6 years off the workshop floor, not training, you get slower, you get rusty, for want of a better word. So every evening I was up in I had a little shed up in our tout there, and every evening the lads used to call it the Arches, Phil Mitchell, how we standards. You up in the Arches tonight. And so I was up there for a couple of years, and got to a stage where, like, Duffy's be demanding, so you'd be like, it's 50 to 60 hours a week. So you're up there, coming home, out of suit, into the overalls, up to the shed, collecting customers' cars and stuff, So when I was looking at it going, there has to be a way of saving time. So similar actually to yourself last week, Chris, I built a mobile van. So I was thinking, there's certain jobs that I don't need to have in the Arches, as we call it. I could go out in the van and I could possibly get 2 or 3 of them done in a night, as opposed to running up and down to get the cars and stuff. But it was ridiculous. You're never home. So it got to a stage there where I said, look, there's something has to go. We either need to go 100% all in with the full-time job, or I need to look at going out on my own, So initially I was in a partnership with a friend of mine, and basically he was in a similar situation, and we were both looking, and we said, right, well, if we knock our heads together, we might be able to do something. So we went into a partnership in 2013. We actually bought a garage called Prestige Cars in Finglas. So I was 35 years old, and the gentleman, Ken, was retiring. And the partnership there lasted for 2 years. Difference of opinions, maybe a difference of ideas. So we decided to split. So basically I sold my half of it to him and set up. Actually, I didn't come directly to here. My plan was after that. So I was 2 years back on the workshop floor then. So obviously pace went up, getting a bit of knowledge back, obviously with, different, more modern stuff, you know what I mean? Yeah, obviously brushing up on stuff, doing a little bit of training. But when the partnership separated, I kind of wanted to go down the sales route.
Just on the partnership, did you find, it is a big jump, because I remember myself when I was working for an employee versus an employer.
Yeah.
When I was working with them, you resonate a bit with this as well. Because it does take that wee bit of bravery to go at your own. And for us, we worked at home, I think 7 years in the corner of a farmyard in one of the dad sheds, until we built up enough customers to say, you know what, now we're strong enough that it takes time, because we started off at 2008, which was the start of recession. So it took a while to build up enough customers. You say, right, now we can go in and know that we're going to have enough money to cover the bills. And did you find, would you have done it, or would you have made that jump on your own initially? And did you find the partnership just give you that with more confidence?
Great question, actually, yeah. But so, obviously the two of us, in fairness, both had really good jobs. Like Audi was a good paying job, company car, just a lot of hours. And I just I believed that we could do it now. There was a number of different things that concrete at home. Going with a partnership, definitely, like I learned stuff from him. I'm sure he learned a few bits from me. He probably never tell you that, but he'd never admit it. But no, absolutely. And you had that cushion to learn. Like there's a lot to do. Like there's obviously VAT returns. There's and it's all kind of new. Now I would have, from the Duffy's days, you would have dealt a lot with reports, and you would have been dealing with accounts, and not so much accounts, to be fair, but there was a lot of reports and Excel spreadsheets and stuff that you again, as you said last week, you would never get exposed to when you're on a workshop floor. You'd diagnostic too.
Yeah, fixing ours. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, but you're not exposed to reporting and stuff like that. So
you found then, I'll go back another week a bit, you found that your experience between Joe Duffy's and Hopton Reed's, that with having to fill the reports and do paper, that prepared you even more?
Oh, without a doubt. So I suppose, like, the only department I haven't worked in a garage is the parts department.
I'd take like any bit of experience on any corner of the motor trade. It's going to benefit you.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Go out on your own, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
and I think the ground with Duffy's, in fairness to them, they teach you well. They teach you really well. A lot of training. Well, obviously I was sales there, so a lot of sales training. So coming back to what I was saying there, when we separated the partnership, I was looking to go primarily sales and have a prep centre for it, right? But I built up all these customers all over the years, so the phone was ringing. So it ended up, I was actually down Talca Bally Estate down there. It was at Unit 7, but you were down there. It was away from, this is my local area, and it was just that little bit further out. Dark, dreary, you're on your own. So I bought a ramp, a tire machine, a balancer, compressor, and a few other, obviously, whatever other tools you need. So it's like an NCT prep centre is what I kind of had. And I was looking at it saying, like, it was dark, it was lonely, like, and I was like, oh, what am I after doing? But all along, initially I wanted this unit, and they wouldn't let motor trade in. As we all know, motor trade is deemed dirty, so people don't kind of tend to let you in too handy. So I had that place immaculate down there, and on the off chance, I rang about 5 or 6 times. So on one day I got a different fella. I was actually just sitting at the lights outside, and I looked in, and I'm going to ring that again. And I got a different fella. I can't remember. I think it was Clement, I think was his name. I can't remember what his full name was. But anyway, he was like, oh no, that's let. I was like, all right, yeah, who took it in the end? He said, a guy going in motor trade. Sorry, what? You just told me that he wouldn't take motor trade. So in fairness, he engaged, and he said to me, but I'm going to be honest with you. He said, your man's a pain in the hole. He says, he's going off. He wants solicitor's report. He's now, solicitors are looking at it and all. He said, like, it was small rent at the time. He said, so I said, look, here's the situation. I said, I want that unit. I said, so let me have a look at it. and if it's right, I says, I'll give you a deposit on the spot, and we go from there. And long and the short, we come up, viewed it, and he gished your man with a solicitor's report. It was mad though, signing into a building. Literally, it was a check signed on the boot of a car. There you go. Thanks a million. Give me the keys and on I go. And then literally just moved all the stuff up and started in here with one ramp, the time machine, all the gear that I had down, and on my own. And we were only open about 8 weeks, and I was like, I kind of need to take someone on. But I was obviously we're all fear of that, And I was looking, going, do I don't think what do I do? But I ended up getting a bad cut on my hand, and I needed 13 stitches, and I wasn't allowed to work for 8 weeks.
Nice.
So I was cornered. So I went down Consort at the time, and I said, do you know any mechanics I said, I need to get a mechanic. And they put me on to Stephen, who's our head technician here still today. He's with me since day one. But yeah, it's mad how things work out, isn't it? Like, just a cut on the hand. And so he came in, and then came in here in the May of 2015, so we're 10 years here in May. We had the 2-poster ramp where the 4-poster is, and it just exploded. Like, there was people coming in. I did do a cheeky kind of thing, like for a bit of banter. I took a picture similar to that shoot you done earlier, so my head on it, and a picture of outside the building with a big sign, and I put it in the local news. So I got the middle page and the back page for 3 months, and because everyone, my mum was telling everyone that I was going back to Audi. So I knew, people coming in looking for me, I was going back to Audi. So stuck me picture.
Everyone.
Over it. Cheeky mouth. It is right. And but that newspaper, the local rag, I think they call it goes into every envelope or every letterbox in the town. So the phone started ringing anyway. Myself and Stephen here, and then it was just like, we need more ramps. So I bought the 4-poster then, and then we moved the 2-poster there and this one. So them 2 were the second lot, and then by the September that was in, and by the following February that one was in. And yeah, it's just been busy, and then the staff obviously grew from there. And
how do you find going? That's your. What drove you through those? You started off serving the time. You went to the aerospace. You didn't like it. What drove us? I spoke to Chris last week about the dream of where he saw himself down the road. Did you see yourself when you started off and did you see yourself, or you know what, I'm going to be a mechanic here and I'm going to be here for the next 40 years? Or did you have in your head that, did you have a dream? Do you have a vision of your own workshop from the start?
Yeah, well, when I went into the mechanics, yes, I did. I always wanted to work for myself. I knew it was going to be a bit difficult. And it is difficult, as we all know, do you know what I mean? But then you have to keep trying things, and I've tried loads of different things and got loads of things wrong as well. Like we opened a second workshop in Ashbourne in 2018. That kind of fell on my lap. I think I was talking to you about it last week, and there was a local garage that was closing down, and he rang me and asked me would I be interested in looking at the equipment. So I'd done a deal on all the equipment, sold some of it, and then I was looking at the rest of it going, what am I going to do with all this? So it was a great, just bang, act, and then think later. Sometimes I'm getting better at that now. Now I'm kind of think about that, Keith, because I pulled the reins back a bit. But yeah. So I ended up then I was out doing a DPF regeneration on the N2 motorway, and I seen the place up in Ashbourne, and went in as a for rent, grand, got all the equipment moved up, and then opened up, and it was a lovely little garage. But I suppose I could have put more effort into it. Definitely could have put more effort into it, but it was the head wasn't in it, and it was open for about 18 months, and I just cut the toe off before I lost the foot.
It's hard to split yourself in 2.
100%.
Can't be in 2 places at the same time,
Yeah, and I think with the service industry, you just have to, man.
It's quite different than not everything else. Yeah. Very hard to run 2 garages. Loads of people said to me, and I'm gone, one was enough.
Yeah. But again, lesson learned, So
do you find as well, and maybe you resonate with this as well, that I have this chat regularly with every morning I come into town, I can watch the videos, they'll know I'll be sitting up again, been here for me coffee, and you go into the coffee shop, you get You aren't really getting it for the coffee, you're in for a wee bit of banter and crack to the lad that owns it. And you nearly build up a relationship. You're going, I should really crap Steve in the way in before I go to walk, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're selling bottles of water, they're going to buy a bottle of water.
Yeah.
Do you know? Do you find then that, well, I know we sell when we've customers come from all over the country. If I'm not in the workshop, they aren't going to come.
Yeah.
They want to see me in the
We're
workshop.
asking for you going name.
Yeah, but you don't social media stuff.
I get involved that way.
Where's Chris?
People are coming in, well, there's Chris here, you know. And some people come in and they actually want me to fix that car, but I've been told I want Chris to do my car. And I'm just going, hold on, I have 4 other lads out there, they're all just as good as me. One of them was actually better than me. I said, so, your car's in good hands.
Yeah, you know what I see.
Yeah, but I think that's good when you do build it with this, is that people ask for Keith.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
He asked for Keith, there's Keith here, you know what I mean? Because that was the dream, was to have your name over the
Oh, yeah. It only happened yesterday. The customer was in and he actually bought a car off me, an Audi, back in 2011 or something like that. And as he said to Claire, and I followed him ever since. But again, he was like, I never see him. See, I'd spend a lot of the times, obviously I'm going to come to the car sales thing there, but I'd spend a lot of the time out. Like yesterday, I came in here till about 1, and then I had to go to Cherrywood to collect the car. Went down to Wexford. I was talking to you last night. You're going down to Wexford to collect the car. So you spend a lot of time out, and we did have a good January, thankfully, touch wood. But so obviously if we sell 20 cars in a month, that's 20 cars that I have to replace.
Yes, you have to keep looking.
So on a 20-day working month, that's a car a day.
And do you find, and I know Chris was from this last as well, but you said that the exorbitant hours you'd have to put in, or even it was affecting your life in general. Of course, yeah. I think a lot of people don't realise, and one of the biggest things of going out on your own, I think people, this conception of, oh, I'm going to be doing a 9 to 5 and work for myself. That's a pipe dream.
Yeah.
That biggest pipe dream on earth. Like, being a mechanic it's unique to every other trade. Yeah, because you just get sucked down a rabbit hole sometimes. Yeah. And that elusive 5 o'clock soon turns into 12 o'clock at night. Your missus is ringing you, where are you? You know what I mean? They're strolling in the door at 1:15 in the morning over the Nile. You know what I mean? You have to be gone since 9 o'clock. Like.
Yeah, and I done years of that. But now we would have the manners, we have manners I call them, would be fairly good. Like, obviously with the little lad now at home, he's 1. Like, you want to be getting home at 6, 7 o'clock at the latest, because you want to be seeing him.
It's not nice when you get home and
and that little smile when you walk in the door just makes it all worthwhile, you know what I mean? So, but anyway, from the sales point of view then, we always sold cars.
So from here?
Yeah, so the workshop, the workshop was obviously the work. That's kind of the workshop story, and then we went from there. So yeah, we were selling cars then as well. Initially,
how many cars did you have outside the lane? When you were selling from here, how many would you have?
Yeah, this is what happened when we came here then. So initially, we probably only had 10 to 15 cars.
Yeah.
And you'd be storing a couple of them at the house, and you'd be, it wasn't the line then ended up being the workshop initially, and then it was like the cars were out on our tote at the house. So you're like, if someone wanted to come in and ring you for one, and you're like, oh, I can't show you that today. It's going to have to be tomorrow. Or you were leaving here, going to a tote to get the car and coming back. And it just wasn't ideal. So I ended up the first, again, coming back to trying stuff, we got a yard up beside the Brock Inn. So you could put... So, but again, here to the Brock, right? But it was actually lovely. It was a lovely fenced off yard. It actually looked proper, and I think we brought the stock up to about 15, maybe 20 cars, and then that worked for a while, and it was grand. And then we got a yard closer, which was just up in Dublin Cross, and we had that for years. So we were kind of running in and around 20 to 30 cars then with the workshop. And then if someone rang in and they wanted to see a car, it's only 5 minutes up the road. There was no problem.
Did you find for yourself, Poole, were you trying to do all this?
Oh, of course, yeah. And sometimes I look back and I go, how did I do that? Because now if I try to do it, it's not, I don't know, maybe I'm getting old or whatever it is, but...
Sorry, Keith, just to cut across you there, how did you find, like, so obviously I do small bit of car sales, but nowhere at the scale we're doing it, right? But, like, you're running a workshop here, right? Then they're doing the car sales. And I always find it's a bit of a, you're like a control freak. You want to control everything that's going on around, but you can't put all your energy into selling cars, all your energy into running workshop, because you can't be in the two places at the one time. See, if you have to go and meet people, show them car and stuff like that, that's to be a massive premises, and you've there for cars. So how did you eventually be able to go, right, well, you run the workshop and we'll look after the sales?
I don't. See, that's the thing, right? So, and initially that was the plan to kind of, but I found it very hard to take the hands off the handlebars. Again, same as yourself, control freak, holding on, right? And sometimes you just have to, like, and I did. There came to a point where, right, and then I upped the staff levels. Like at one point I had 8 staff working for me. Between
staff.
Yeah, it was. But you'd see, and then you see it in the year end. You know what I mean? Unless you're doing, and it's every month. And so basically, I had a girl in reception full time. I had a full time valeter. At one point, there was 5 technicians in the workshop, and again, total wrong ratio. 4 2-posters, 3 2-posters, a scissors lift and a wheel alignment lift. You 5 lads, you 5 ramps, but your lad's not going to work in a 4-poster. That's an alignment ramp. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So again, all around, but again, trying it, getting it wrong. So thankfully now I have the staff right. We've 3 techs now. We've a part-time girl on the desk, and then there's me and Andrew. So I sub-left the valeting now as well. But anyway, so where was I then with the I was in the yard actually. Sorry, Chris, I didn't actually answer that bit properly there. So yeah, no, with the sales and the workshop, trying to, yeah, it's just, again, Chris, it's just constantly just, looking at things, but it's very hard. I'm not gonna, like, when the workshop's busy, and you know yourself, when you have a bad week, problem after problem after problem, right? But then what happens is, with the workshop here, we also have warranty. So the warranty, obviously, if someone gives you 10, 12, 15 grand or whatever amount of money for a car, and they drive out the gate, and God forbid, now we do, and it's known, we go to the highest standard with the prep, but I always say to every customer, there's 1,000,001 things, 1,000,001 components in every car, and from time to time they just go wrong. I don't have a glass ball, but you have to, if they're at the part with 10 or 12 grand, you need to get that car back in, get it sorted and get it out.
You're not going to leave them some say, bro.
It's always the week that you have an engine out of yoke, gearbox out of yoke, do you know what I mean? And you don't have, you know what I mean? And it's just, you're just up to your neck in it with the workshop. So, yeah, no, there's weeks where you would be fit to blow, to be honest with you. So, with the sales thing then, I'm going to come back to the sales thing because it'll tie into what I was saying to you. So, we had the yard up in Dover Cross, and then we had here, and it was ideal. But if someone rang in looking for that lay-on, we would bring the lay-on down. They'd only see the lay-on. So they'd come in, they'd look at the lay-on, yeah, that's not for me. But there's 29 other cars up in the yard that they might have, So I was kind of looking at that, and I was like, right, COVID struck and all then, and, so I was, one of the days I was away one weekend, and in fairness to Eugene and Finglas Auto Parts, put me on to Dan in Charlestown Shopping Centre. And he rang me and he said, would you be interested in putting a workshop into the underground car park? Service while you shop. So I looked at it and went, okay, I'll have a look. So I'm away, I'll meet you on the Monday. So I went in on the Monday, and he showed me the area that he was going to give me, and I looked at it and I went off, done the numbers, but the fit out around there, obviously it's a shopping centre, so everything had to be minted. All would have had to be glazed. Shutters either front or back. So the cost of that alone, you know what I mean? You wouldn't, I think, if it would be 30 or 40 grand for that bit. Then you wouldn't put a 2-poster in. So there was loads of it. And then you drive a golf ball from here to there. So, but when I was talking to him, I was pushing for spots for the sales cars. So I said, we're going to get 8 or 9 spots, and I'll put the sales cars in there. So after we crunched the numbers, I went back to him. I said, Dan, look, that doesn't work for me. I said, I'm already after doing a second garage in Ashbourne that I closed. And I'm like, So he said to me, right, no, it's not all lost yet. He says, what about putting your car showroom in there? Now, as you said earlier, don't buy a car from a car park. We put a car showroom in, right? And I knew, I said, it's quirky, it's different. We'll give it a go, right? So I said, I'm going to need a bit of a bigger area because obviously the amount of cars we had. So he says, yeah, look, take this out. And he was real flexible, really good. So we got the contracts done up, and in we went. And when we opened that, that's when I had to bring the stock levels up then, because 20 to 30 cars in there, it looked bare. So you had to bring it up to 40. You'd want 40 minimum to do the numbers that you need to do.
Yes.
It's not a yard and just bring the cars down and sell them. Now I'm after opening a car sales business. So that needs, obviously comes with rent, rates, all the bits and bobs that go with it. So now I'm looking at it going, right, I need to do more cars.
Yeah.
To do more cars, you need to have more cars. So sell more, you need to have more.
So you've gone from 5 or 6 outside your door here to
Yeah. 50, 60 at some points, yeah.
down in the car park.
Yeah, well, yeah, they wouldn't be all in there. We still have the other yard that we can store them in. But yeah, but when you get up to that level of stock, and then you're trying to run the workshop, and then, you know, I've Andrew around the show, he has a good week around there. You could sell 8 cars, like whatever, 10 cars, depending on the week. Now, you know, there's some other weeks we only sell 1 or 2. But when you get that, and generally that's what happens, you'll sell 8 to 10 cars, and then everybody wants them on Wednesday. Have to find them on Saturday. So now you're looking at the diary and you're shuffling and you're juggling. So with the diary there, we'd always have slots for sales cars reserved that we can juggle and bounce and warranty and various different things, you know. But there's always something to be done. So we're in the showroom now 3.5 years now. Yeah, made a few bits and no changes and that, but it was a good idea. It's actually working really well for us now, but it wasn't open the doors and everyone's coming in to buy cars, you know. But it's the people that are going in doing the shopping on every Thursday. They're driving by and driving by, and they're going, the young fella's looking for a car. I'll go in and see Keith.
We really hope you're enjoying these videos. We'd just like to take a couple of moments to thank Certa Ireland, who are the official country partner of Castrol Oil in the island of Ireland, north and south. If you do want any products, please support Certa and give them a shout. They're really supporting us here on our podcast, and they're also supporting independent garages in Ireland like you. Do give them a shout if you want any Castrol Oil. Back to the video.
Coming back to here, to manage workshops and a sales department is tough. I could do with a fella that could just run this for me, but it's, you know, it's hard, God.
Technicians,
Yeah.
Sean and now himself, you know, it's like hen's teeth.
Holy great.
So and even when you do eventually get guys in, a lot of the time they're not the right fit either, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I'm very lucky now after 10 years of playing with staff. The team I have, they're all with me a long, long time.
The independent sector is a lot different than what guys dealership, you know. It's a lot different. You'd have to work harder. Yeah, we start, you know what I mean? Yeah, there's more expected of you, you know.
Thankfully, again, I'm lucky with the team that I have. They're great lads, in fairness to them.
Right, we eventually do get, because like it's like throwing them out. It's like a football team, isn't it? Yes. There's some time where he's so gone. Bringing another fella, you think he's going to be brave, he's brilliant, get rid of him.
But you see, as you said, it's with football players. I'm not a big football fan, but you have seen certain players be on a team and they don't shine, and then you whack them onto another team and they're the best things in sliced bread.
Some fella comes in, nobody's ever heard of him in their life. He comes in and he just goes about his business, but he turns out to be fantastic, you know what I mean? Like I have a couple of them, you know, yeah. It takes a long time.
But it's 10 years. It's 10 years now. I can honestly, I think it's the best that we've had it at the moment. I've Andrew around in the car showroom there, and he's brilliant. He came with me again. He was with me from the start. He was in valeting cars in the evening for me on Saturdays. Then he wanted an apprenticeship, so I recommended him down to Dennis Mahoney's, where I served my time. He got in there. He done 3.5 years there, and then he came here as a service advisor for me. And he's done the desk for probably about 3 years, I'd say 2 or 3 years. And as we all know, it's a tough job. So I think it was getting to him, you know. So when I opened the showroom, he asked, now he was selling the cars as well while he was on the desk here, but it was madness. We weren't doing the volume of cars from here that we are now, but it was just, you could see he was going to burst, you know. So anyway, he asked, could he go around to the showroom, and now he's my sales manager now around in the showroom, and he's a happy out. Like, so.
It's lovely that you can actually pray. And one of the things that in an independent, that's very difficult is certain people that want to see some sort of job progression. And as an independent, an independent garage is typically just repairs and sales and repairs. So progression-wise, only progression is financial progression. You tend to be yours. Yeah, it's lovely to hear that what you've done, you've started off with the workshop, added sales on, and you were able to bring a lad in. If you started off as a lad, get him through his time. He's now a qualified mechanic. He's working the sales desk. As well, you've got your hand stuck in parts there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Everyone that's on my desk knows all about parts. And now he's progressed to sales manager. I think that's a lovely, as an independent, that's quite an achievement. You mightn't see that.
Yeah, you don't see the thing. You don't think about that. You know what I mean? You just it's the next day. You're going up the next day, and what's the next problem, or what's the next goal, or what's the next thing to do? Like, you know,
Just trying to keep it those how they pay the bills.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And sometimes it's going great, but when it goes wrong, you just want to bury your head in the sand sometimes and go.
And we did get it wrong for a couple of years, and I've no shame in saying the volume of staff that I had was wrong. You know, theoretically, you think to yourself, right, well, I've all this work and it's not getting done. If you belt another lad in there, we'll churn that work quicker. We can take more in, we'll prep the sales cars. Now, the beauty of what we have here is that if the workshop ever gets quiet, I'll always have 20 cars around there that need service, at least. A couple of them need timing belts. So they just feed. It just feeds itself, and it's super, you know.
Look, I think at that point, it'd be fair. Let's go down and have a wee look at your sales. Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Let's go.
yeah.
So we're over here now in Keith's showroom, down in the underground car park in Charlestown Shopping Centre. Keith, an absolute brilliant idea to put a car showroom. How many cars go through this car park weekly?
I think the figure is somewhere in the area of 50,000 a week, believe it or not. When they told me them numbers, I was like, yeah, whatever. Even if it's half that volume, you know, we're on to a winner. But you see it today, lads. Serious, Chris, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's a brilliant idea. It really is a brilliant idea.
It was either going to work or it wasn't. You know, one of them ones it was, but you have to, again, keep trying.
Yeah, but you were right not to put a workshop down here. But I wouldn't fancy it working on cars down here, but it's perfect for sales.
Everyone says, don't buy a used car from a car parking. And it's a great, actually, sales pitch to open things with customers, you know. But no, there's a lot of time that goes into it. Like coming back to what you said earlier with the workshop and obviously the sales department and bouncing. Like there's certain things that, like training, for instance. So I have to look at my time and where I'm getting the return.
Yeah.
Right. So for me to go to the UK on a week's training course, it would be great if I was in the workshop the whole time. Whereas, you know, you go out and you'll buy 5 cars, 10 cars, whatever you do, and you'll get the return that way. So I suppose it's more now kind of just managing the business and as you know, I am back on the desk though a lot in the workshop. As I said earlier, we scaled back the staff and I went back in then just to kind of cut costs. So I'm back on the desk. Now to be fair, it's good because it keeps the pencil sharp. But where I'm struggling now is, as I said, January's good. So if you sell 20 cars in a month, you obviously have to replace them 20 cars. And again, on a 20-day working month, that's 1 car a day. So you're obviously out trying to get them, collect them, deliver them, and trying to bounce and juggle, you know.
So it's hard to run a workshop, keep an eye on everybody in the workshop, keep an eye on your sales figures in the workshop as well, to make sure you're selling the hours.
Yeah, and now, lucky we have a process here. Andrew, the sales manager there, he's great. So there's very little looking after with him. It's just literally getting the cars into the process, getting them obviously priced up, photographed, and getting them on the web. But again, with a good January, so we're behind now. So all you're focusing on is selling and getting the cars out. There's a load of cars now in prep that all need to be in, reg plates, stickered up, serviced, into the photo bay, photographed on the web. So now next week the plan will be, there'll be 2 or 3 late nights, 9, 10 o'clock here, photographing cars to get them up, because if they're not online, they won't sell.
Yeah.
And I suppose the other thing as well about being on the desk in the workshop, it's a nice role to put yourself in. And something that we see ourselves, myself and Debbie at home, is like we really stand to what are your roles? How can we optimize your role in what you do? And you have optimized your role because you're not only running the workshop, but you can look up stock while you're down there. So if you have 10 or 15 minutes between jobs, you can look at something you can do while you're there is look up stock. you don't have to run out. So it's a really nice way of optimizing what you do in your time.
Very rarely get to look up stock mines, you know, because you know yourself in a workshop, there's always something coming at you. So normally that'd be done in the evenings, or like we deal with a number of main dealers that would supply us. So you'd be answering calls daily, like you'd probably take 10 to 15 calls a day, pricing cars. And then when they come in, then you go and get them. It's as simple as that. But yeah, no, it works well. It works well.
It probably works in sync with your workshop as well, because obviously they will get quiet days sometimes. Maybe you might get a quiet month, you know.
100%. So like there's always 15 to 20 cars that at least need a service. Like there's obviously timing belts, brakes and stuff like that as well. So yeah, absolutely. It's rare, again, thankfully it's rare now that we have to bring the yokes around, but I prefer to service the cars when they're going. So if I service that car today and it sits there for 3 months, the customer's not getting a full service. Brakes lock up, batteries go dead, all that sort of stuff.
Yes.
Whereas if we take a deposit on the car, then it goes to the
There goes
workshop
the prep.
and then obviously you can give it the full once over, battery checks, brakes, you know. If a car needs a ball joint or a bush or something like that, it's really easy to do it. Whereas if you do it today and leave it sitting there for 3 months, I don't think it's the way to do it. Look, there's, horses for courses.
You're handing the car across, prepped, ready to go, fresh.
Absolutely, and that's what I say to the customers. And touch wood, again, it minimalises warranty as well. Do you know what I mean? Like if you leave a car sitting there for 3 months, the brakes are going to be squeaking on it. Stupid little things like that. And then the customer's coming back in then, they only have the yoke a week and they're coming back in with these small, stupid items that slows everyone down. It's a car that has to go on the ramp. The customer has obviously had to come in.
It should have been nipped in the bud
Yeah.
before it went out. Excellent. No, Keith, excellent. Well done. Do you know, like it's really to see as an independent, as we just spoke about between going from the garage to here, really what you've done, and it's very uncommon for an independent mechanic to do what you've done and to be able to put Andrew in here in the office, who started as a valeter, who worked his way up through mechanic, service, into sales. It's main dealer stuff. You know, well done.
Yeah, thanks a
I'll have
million.
to take
Thanks
my
a million.
hat off to you, Keith, because it's one thing running a garage, because it's hard to build a successful independent garage like where you have repeat custom and then plus build up a massive amount of stock for sales. Because I've tried it. I do a little bit. I dabble in it, but this is nice. It's very time consuming. So fair play to you.
Yeah, thanks a million,
Hard
lads.
work is shown.
Thank you.
So fair play to you.
You always hear the saying, never buy a car from a car park. Well, Keith just heard that and he just goes, challenge accepted. Now we move across the large garage over in Swords and have a wee look at what he does with a peak scope. Sean here, and we're down here with Lara today in HP down on the south side. Lara, what are we doing today?
We're doing a diagnosing of a Defender with a misfire.
My favourite. So Lara, just talk us through what we're at here.
We have a 231 Defender misfire, but no fault code so far in the PCM. When you do start the car up and run it, you can certainly feel a phenomenon going on in the engine that just doesn't seem right. So it seems actually okay there at the moment.
You can hear that little harshness in it.
It's just a slight bitness in it. It's very difficult there to try to diagnose what is the issue at the moment. So we'll set up a picoscope and we'll set up the WPS and try read the exhaust gases coming out of the engine to try determine, have we got which cylinder is down, is there a cylinder off? Can we try correlate, is it the intake, is it compression, or is it a fuel issue?
So what are we going to do now? You're not satisfied with the readings you're getting from the manufacturers too?
Just at the moment, maybe we haven't done enough cycles. Sometimes the cars, the manual system can't pick up very slight misfires. We'd have to go further in a diagnosis to try can we find a misfire. And we'll use picoscopes, WPS. This really is a fantastic pressure transducer. Every mechanic should have one. They're invaluable. It has its own internal battery. We let it go through its own calibration cycles. Then we use this little adapter for it, which actually for going up exhausts, and it picks up the pulsation of the exhaust gases coming down. If I can give anybody a bit of advice when it comes to scoping, if you could go over to James Dillon in Technical Topics in Bristol and set in his scope masterclass that turns a novice into a pro in literally 2 days. And as you start using scope more and more, you become very good tech using it. On the manufacturer's tool, they call it live data, but live data is not technically correct. It's actually data back in time. This is actually true, real life live data. So I'm going to use the WPS to check the pressure pulses. Because it's low, we're going to go to 350 millibar. On channel B, we're going to go onto a amp clamp.
Why are you looking to read with the amp clamp?
So it's a 6-cylinder car. So we're going to see each kind of puff, because at the end of the day, the engine's a pump. So I should see the exhaust pulsation coming out of the car, up and down, up and down, up and down, like a nice waveform, because it's meant to be misfire. I'm going to see some sort of disturbance to the cylinder, because disturbance is nothing without able to isolate the problem. All I've done is take off, at this stage, take off the engine cover and put an amp clamp on the cylinder 1 and put a probe up the exhaust. It's never good from a diagnosing point of view to disconnect anything. Try to leave the car intact and as untouched as you can. I said literally have an amp clamp like this that just literally clamps around, just clamps around the wire, put a wire through like that and pick up the actually magnetic field of electrical voltage and current flowing through the wire that we're looking at on the injector. We're hooked up to injector number 1. The firing order on the car is 6-cylinder, straight 6, and if I go into Land Rover's data, so it's 153624.
I was going to say that maybe we could look at to compare the live data versus that, but you're saying the live data is only going to be an interpretation of what the ECU sees, which is not naturally going to be what you want to see on the screen.
Yeah. So I'm just going to click on the amp clamp. This is where people kind of might get a bit jittery, so we check up 5 milliseconds. So it's literally 5 milliseconds from this point to this point. So at that point, we can't really see anything, but we can start changing around scaling of the pressure pulse.
You're amplifying it.
You're amplifying it, yeah. And now it's starting to show. So the engine is starting to reveal itself. There is a miss there in the engine. The pressure pulses are starting to show a bit of reward. We'll just pause it there. We'll knock off the engine so we don't cause any damage to the engine. So between this point and this point is 720 degrees, so 2 crank rotations.
Yeah.
And then from this point, another 720. So we've got kind of a bit of time there on the screen. So the red here is cylinder number 1 firing. The injector firing actually and squirting fuel in.
Right, so at every red line you see, that's picking up.
No, not every line, only the major ones. So you have, so if I scroll it, if I zoom in there, just take this one here for a second. So that's pre, main and post. So let's see how quick these injectors are actually firing. 3.008 milliseconds of difference there. So the injectors open 3 times, open and close 3 times within 3 milliseconds. And don't forget there's 1,000 milliseconds in 1 second. So it's a phenomenal piece of engineering from an engineering point to have such a clean opening, clean closing. Now there is a little bit of ringing on the coil at the back. It's actually the electrons flattening out when the coil closes.
But it's amazing that the wee piezo crystallets on the top of these injectors, that when you pass the power through them, it changes shape. But it can actually, like a physical object, like a crystal, can change its shape so many times so quickly.
Yeah. The bounce from the piezo jump.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's quick. It's quick. I tell you, it is quick. That's just what the injector is doing at the moment. So we use the injector purely as to try to give us a base of where's number 1 cylinder. From 1 cylinder, we can work out what the other cylinders are doing.
So the blue waveform is your pressure sensor coming out of the exhaust.
Yes, so that's pressure pulsing.
So just in a basic term, straight off the bat, you would say so most of them are fairly uniform.
It's a 6-cylinder car.
Yeah, so you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
So it's fair to say then that we've an issue when it comes to here.
Yeah.
And they look relatively normal.
Yeah. Relatively good.
Then it all heads out.
Then it all goes pitong, yeah.
So what's going on?
How are we going to determine? Well, you could actually do it. So we know cylinder number 1's on. I went to cylinder 1 with the amp clamp. So I know this roughly here where cylinder number 1 is. So we know cylinder number 1 is here, and then these are exhaust strokes. So we could work out after cylinder number 1 what's the next exhaust, what's the next cylinder for the exhaust. We know the firing order already, which is what's a 153624. So we're not looking for the firing order this time. We're looking for the exhaust order. So which in the 4-stroke cycle, exhaust comes after the power stroke. Can be quite difficult to work it out, But thank God there is tools out there to help us. I got this many years ago off a chap called Dean Andrews in DNA Services down in Cornwall in the UK. So I put the forward order in as 153624. I've synced it on cylinder number 1, and then I hit the ID overlay chart.
So what your overlay is doing here, you've got your compression, ignition, power, and
Yeah,
exhaust
power
stroke.
bank, yeah. So we have the WOT graph up here where our current clamp on injector number 1 and our WPS in the exhaust.
Right, so what's this telling you?
The secret of this WOT chart, it makes us able to work out the firing order and put the firing order in relevance to the pressure pulse of the exhaust. And we're only interested now in the exhaust pulsation. So this tells us cylinder number 2 is on exhaust. Then after cylinder number 2 on exhaust comes cylinder number 4. Then after cylinder number 4 comes cylinder number 1 on exhaust. Then after cylinder number 1 comes cylinder number 5 on exhaust. And then after cylinder number 5, cylinder number 3. So our problem is in cylinder number 3.
And you see, looking at this, would you say that cylinder number 3
Yeah,
is a problem?
it's the problem. Yeah.
Right. But then you see the way it's not much
Yeah,
better than cylinder
yeah.
number 6. So would you say cylinder number 3 is causing the problem here?
Correct.
Or there's another problem with 6?
No, because don't forget this is pressure pulsing. So this is like a pump. Think of a pump going pump, 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 and then obviously it stops pumping. So you're going to get less air coming out of the exhaust.
So when you're diagnosing this, you're saying, right, well, look, forget about this for a minute.
Yeah,
Fix this one first.
yeah, yeah.
And see if that causes, I get you.
Yeah, correct, yeah. The next part of the call would be obviously go to the client, say, listen, this is where we are.
Yeah.
Do you want to go any further? If they say, yeah, go ahead. What I'll try to do is I'll try to get the engine on to start, not to fire it up, and then turn it over.
And check your compression
Check the
with your
compression.
pico.
Check the relative compression with the pico, yeah. Yeah, I think that might work, Sean, go on. Yeah, that might work there. Hold on there, Shawnee. Yeah, knock it off.
Okay, so what are we looking at now?
So looking at in the green here is the relative compression of the engine. We do this by using the amp clamp around the battery or the starter wire. So each peak represents a cylinder from a compression point of view. It's not a normal compression test or a conventional compression test.
But the fact that they're all even would indicate the compression's good.
The compression's good. So if the compression's good, the valves are good, then that leads us to has to be an injector problem.
Right, so based on what you're seeing there now, you're happy enough to say it's most likely an injector.
Yeah, it's definitely not in this. It's definitely the misfire or the anomaly in the engine is not in it's not within the cylinder as such.
So if I wasn't here holding you up, recording this,
Yeah.
roughly how long would it take you to get from where you set the thing up, pull the vehicle in, set it up, to getting your first initial reading, your pressure reading from the exhaust, but now your compression reading, your relative compression?
Yeah.
Would you have it in less than an hour?
Yeah, absolutely you would, yeah.
So you can see that. I just think it's a really good point, because a lot of people will say, we talk about, and it's a real buzzword at the minute, is hourly labour rates. But what you've just been able to tell the customer in an hour is more than what another man that doesn't have this gear could tell in a day, because he's taking injectors out to get them checked. As you said, just the live data is not going to tell you which injector's out.
No, well, not accurately.
Not at this early stage.
Yeah, not at this stage. No.
And the problem with live data, I know with watching injector corrections, sometimes it might tell you,
It's correcting the opposite cylinder.
It's correcting, yeah, a different cylinder. So
Yeah,
you don't. So
yeah.
you have to take the 4 to make them tested,
Yeah.
or 6 in this case. So what you've done here for the customer is save them an absolute fortune
Yeah.
in labour time. So even though the labour rate is higher,
Yeah.
there's much less labour involved
Yeah.
and a quicker turnaround.
Yeah, our labour rate is probably the highest in the country. But it's the reason because we spent so much money on training, on equipment. Ultimately, it's a lower labour rate because we're not taking out injectors to get tested.
Yeah.
We're not taking fuel pumps out to get tested. And well, this is accurate. This is much more accurate and precise.
There's so much money and time to be saved by doing it this way, because I know the diesel compression tester I have at home in my toolbox,
Yeah.
it involves taking out glow plugs.
Oh yeah.
What if glow plug snaps?
Head off. Worst case scenario, head off.
Thousands.
Yeah. Try drilling out.
Days.
Yeah, days. Yeah.
Whereas this is just so much simpler,
Yeah.
faster, and the customer's going to be ultimately happier.
Yeah.
So here's a perfect example of where you can turn around and just say to the customer, look, the early rate's a bit higher, but it's going to be far cheaper in the long run.
You're
going to save money by spending the money wisely in the right place.
Optimising the money spent.
Correctly. Brilliant.
Optimising the money spent. And glad that this one worked out, that plugging in the tool didn't tell you what's wrong.
Yeah.
Because there is a misperception that just plug it in and it tells you what's wrong. A lot of times that's the case. It does plug in, it does help guide you.
Yeah.
But other times it leaves you high and dry. And even using the manufacturer equipment, it can still leave you high and dry, and that's the manufacturer company we're using there.
What's a great thing as well, the people that say to me, parents, young lads, oh, I don't know about being a mechanic, or I don't know, and is there any future in it? I mean, there's the manufacturer tool, and it can't give you the answer. Do you know what I mean? There's one thing you can be dead cert of on top of all this, is the mechanics' jobs are going nowhere.
Correct. The best tool that we have here is the grey matter between the two ears.
Yeah.
You know, you have to correlate this data, and you have to be able to interpret the data. People kind of, when they come in, they see this and they say, that's what you see in a hospital. And I'm like, well, you know, consultants are looking at electrical disturbances within your heart, with your heart working or throughout your body. We're looking at electrical disturbance from the magnetic field that surrounds the car. And in this case, on the blue one, we're looking at the disturbance in the exhaust pulsation of the engine. So there is an awful lot to be said where I see people saying, no, you're not a doctor. No, I'm not a doctor, and I'm not a medical doctor. But
I'll still give you a heart attack.
What's that?
I'll still give you a heart attack.
This will start give you a heart attack, yeah. And obviously the prices can give you a heart attack as well, but we try to keep them down the best we can. But the future is bright in the industry, definitely. There's a lot in it. As cars ultimately, eventually, Elon will win out, and eventually we'll be all in electric cars. Obviously, going to be more electrical components in the cars that need to be diagnosed and tested. It's definitely future's bright.
So just to finish up on what we've just tested, this really debunks the theory for all the naysayers to say, oh, don't invest in this and don't do this and don't do that and the other. It's clear to see that the investment you've made here is saving the customer money. So by the customer to turn around and say, oh, I'm not paying you €160 an hour plus VAT, I'm going to go to some fella down the road that's working from the back of his house but doesn't have the equipment, and he's charging €50 an hour. €50 an hour, full days messed and rooting about, 8 hours, €400. Then he has to go in and send the injectors away. They're gone for days, they're not back. Your car's gone for a week. So you're down the cost of your car. You're down your car for a week. You're down his labour. Whereas he could have come into you, but in and out in an hour. Yeah. Got to 200 quid plus the VAT, and here we go.
Yeah, we have the kind of definitive answer.
Yeah.
Once you start subcontracting work out of the garage, then the variables start going a bit skew-wise from a commercial point of view, and then from a time point of view. Yeah. And I remember one time, many moons ago, when we did actually get injectors tested, the place that we sent them to get tested sent us back a different set of injectors.
Right.
And so we had to try to fit them, and these didn't fit. And rang the chap back, said, these are wrong injectors. No, they're the injectors I gave you. Or the injectors I gave here. I said, how can they be? The injectors I took out of the car, you gave me injectors back, don't even fit into the car.
They grew.
They grew. They're like Popeye. They must have fed them spinach. No, so I love this stuff. This stuff is great.
Brilliant. And I know from seeing some of the Pico groups online, you can test pretty much everything.
Everything can be tested. And the beauty of it is I save this, I can keep it for another car coming in. I also can print it. And instead of saying to a client, that part, that's faulty, you can give them a print off and say, this is why I think it's faulty, because of this anomaly here.
It's not necessarily new technology. It is
an evolution.
Yeah.
Not a revolution. Yeah, it's evolution. It's evolution of, Krypton and some machines, and then the vehicles evolving. Coming away from carburetors and points and condensers and moving into fuel injection, ignition coil, coil and plug. Injectors coming from mechanically operated injectors to electronically operated injectors and diesels.
They're all other things that can be measured again with the Pico.
All measured again with the Pico. Yeah.
Right, Lar, thanks so much for this.
You're welcome.
And until the next breakdown.
Next breakdown. Yeah, definitely.
5 minutes. Cheers, thank you.
No problem.
Thanks very much to both Keith and Lara for helping us out with this week's episode. Top lads, as you can see, as always, impeccable work, impeccable workshops, sales, everything's there. This week, we are actually over recording the Auto Mechanica 2025 in Birmingham NEC, and next week, we're going to have the footage of all the interviews, and we wanted to walk around the show we did, and hopefully you'll enjoy that one as much as you enjoyed this one. Thanks for watching.